think I have to just go all the way over there. I'm gonna try not to die here. Well, hello there, and welcome back to the channel. If you guys have been around the channel for any longer amount of time, you'll know I do a series called While We Wait for Marathon. Maybe I'll put like a funny echo on my voice or something there to make it sound more intense. But in that series, I go through and I play extraction shooter games to prepare myself as somebody who is not an elite top-tier extraction gamer for Marathon. We've looked at quite a few things, obviously Hunt, the Battlefield Hazard Zone, kind of the ones that are coming right to mind. Level 0 Extraction, which was a newer one that came out in 2024. So we've done quite a few videos dissecting different games, more so taking cursory glances at them after around maybe 20-ish hours, just to kind of gather my general thoughts and collect kind of a series of valid opinions about the extraction genre as a whole. But before we get too far into this video talking about Escape from Tarkov, which I've been playing over the past 2 weeks, I want to let you guys know that I am doing a video that requires a certain level of community engagement or support. So I am going to do a video basically probably titled something like what people really want from Marathon. And to gather the data to figure out what people really want from Marathon, I, along with Michael Veselowski, a frequent collaborator here on the channel with me, have created a Google form that anybody can fill out. The link will be included in the description or pinned comment beneath this video. I'll also be doing posts about it. So you have a few different ways to find the link over to the Google form. But if you're interested in the upcoming Marathon game or not interested in the upcoming Marathon game, I'm interested in collecting as much data as I can to figure out what exactly people feel in some sort of statistical, conglomerate area for me to pick apart and analyze and make a video about to kind of see where the community stands on certain topics around the upcoming game and what they truly want from it. So like I said, if you are interested in helping me out and providing a little bit of insight into what you personally desire with Marathon, please consider following the link and filling out that Google form. All right, so let's jump into Tarkov. I hope my idea right now is in the beginning, this video will start with my funniest Tarkov stream clip, which I think stands to show the average Tarkov experience, which is loading into a map, being very scared, and then dying and losing all of your stuff, which to some might not sound like a super fun experience, but I personally found quite a bit of enjoyment. Like I said a little bit earlier, I'm around 25 hours, somewhere between 20 to 25 hours in. So obviously with these kind of ongoing live service, games that have been out for a very long time and have a very deep player base, that's really scratching the tip of the iceberg. Anybody who's played like Hunt specifically in terms of other extraction games that I've touched on will know that that's like you're just starting to kind of understand the general mechanics. You probably haven't seen everything that the game has to offer. I haven't even seen every Tarkov map in that amount of time, let alone completed a significant number of the tasks or quests available or built out the hideout system, which I'll get into a little bit later on. So, this is just kind of me generally getting a good understanding of what the game is and how its mechanics work, but it is by no means a thorough analysis of the deepest aspects of the game, which I do plan to continue playing. So I'm sure maybe one day, if my skills get better, I will see some of that in-game content. But Tarkov obviously exists in the kind of unique position as being what I feel like is the premier extraction shooter on the market currently. I think it was probably like one of the first ones to really blow up. I'm sure, going back, there were ones before it. Obviously, there was the Division's Dark Zone, which I think is kind of like the first iteration of the true extraction genre experience. But beyond that, there's probably not that many more examples of these primary extraction kind of games outside of Tarkov. And obviously for that reason, Tarkov has been propelled to the kind of main stage of extraction gameplay. If we're looking at games on Twitch that are getting shown in the extraction genre. Basically, Tarkov kind of runs that, with maybe Hunt peaking over it at some points around content updates, but I don't even know if it's ever really peaked viewership wise over Tarkov at all. So it's a very big deal, and kind of like the mainstay within the genre in terms of when people are adding, developers are adding mechanics to their extraction game. They're really looking at Tarkov in terms of what the player base has accepted and enjoyed around this game. Outside of stylistic changes, obviously this is a very milsim, realistic kind of shooter, so things like Hunt or Level Zero Extraction aren't taking as many cue cards in that realm. But obviously looking into what the players have enjoyed, and kind of the gameplay feedback loop that has kept people coming back to Tarkov, even when their character and their stash is getting wiped every so many months, and it's still in development, has a lot of bugs and other issues. So in terms of like a data tool for Bungie and other developers within the extraction world, Tarkov is, I think, like the biggest, most prominent thing to point at and go, hey, the extraction genre is something that works. Look over here and see how it's doing. Which, like I'm kind of getting back to here, interesting from my perspective, because most of the things you get addicted to, and I will say I'm slightly getting addicted. I'm very pulled in to play Tarkov. If I find a few free moments, I'll jump on and try to get a scav run in, at any point that I can, because it is very satisfying, to get that extraction. But unlike most things that are addictive, usually you get kind of an initial boost of enjoyment from something that you're going to be addicted to. It's like using it now is going to feel really good, and then maybe that'll hurt you later down the line, is the idea behind most addictive things, I feel like. Whereas with Tarkov, it's going to hurt you up front, and then maybe somewhere later, way down the road, you might feel good. So it's kind of the exact reverse of most kind of addicting formats in video games that usually intro you in with something that's very fun, exciting. You get that really fast dopamine hit with the initial gameplay, and then you're kind of like chasing that more and more as you go on, as it weans off, or you get used to mechanics. With Tarkov, it's like you're thrown right into it. You're probably the first, 10 to 15 runs, you're probably going to die. Not really holding your hand at all. You're going to lose all your stuff. And it's going to hurt. But you get the inkling as you start to load into rounds, matches, that, oh, this could be the one. I know where I got killed last time. I kind of am beginning to understand. I'm looking at the maps. I'm knowing where people are going to spawn in at, where the actual enemy players are going to spawn in at, where the AI controlled players are going to spawn in at. I think I got a good route here. And then you're chasing that, oh, if I can go and hit this one loot spot and get some really good gear that's going to make me a lot of rubles, then I'll be able to extract and have that feel-good moment of, oh my god, I just added 100K to my account, which is not a lot. If you play Tarkov, you'll know that. But it feels good, kind of at these lower levels, these entry points, to even get that amount of currency in the game, so you can get an even better loadout next time, which might make you more successful. So we kind of just break down broad spectrum. I'm not going to dive too deep into explaining the extraction genre, because obviously we're pretty deep in the series at this point in terms of covering games, so I don't think that that's necessary. But specific to Tarkov, you kind of have like three main avenues, I think, that you're trying to approach. You're trying to build out your hideout, you're trying to complete tasks or quests or objectives, and you're trying to increase the amount of loot that you have. Let's kind of break these down piece by piece. The hideout is an area that allows you to have access to more upgrades. You can have like a little lounge area where your character can recover. You can have a range in there. You can mod weapons if you build out a workbench. You can make it a nice, cozy living area. If you've played the Forever Winter, which, a newer one, I also did a video about that. If you haven't seen that, you can check that out. But that also has like this hub area that you can buy add-ons and upgrades to just make it a nice, cozy area. Your little player's home base. I do identify with having a physical space. I think that is very cool. It connects you a little bit more to the progression of the game, because it feels like you have something that is consistent in the extraction genre. Everything is very round based, which I personally enjoy from a gameplay perspective. But it is nice to have an element of your world that you're building that is not going to perish every single time you make a mistake and get domed because you didn't clear a corner. So it is cool to have that there, and it does feel like the progression within the hideout will be satisfying. Now, at like I said, around 25 hours in, my progression in the hideout has been very slim. I'm talking maybe one or two upgrades. I'm going in pretty raw. I'm having a very limited number of co-op sessions currently. I'm sure that that would like increase your ability to do those things faster, and looking up more guides would also allow you to kind of probably build that out in a quicker way. But just coming in solo and just trying to figure out the maps on your own, and kind of maybe watching a guide or two here or there for good loot, it's gonna be a very, very slow process. My thinking would be that's something that you would accomplish over the entire wipe, which is maybe like how Tarkov refers to seasons if you're entirely unfamiliar with it. Every few months, they basically clear everyone out and, get rid of all their loot and put everyone back down to the kind of start of the game in terms of tasks that they have to complete and upgrades they've gotten. And so it seems like your hideout and the tasks are something that they want you to kind of complete over that multiple months duration. So we're maybe looking at I don't know, 1 to 200 hour kind of situation if you're, pretty tapped in and been playing a few seasons of the game to kind of reach the conclusion of your upgrades there. Maybe potentially longer in terms of maxing things out. Maybe the 100 to 200 mark would put you where you're pretty comfortable. Maybe if you're not somebody who's trying to 100% complete every little thing about the game, you would probably be satisfied basically with what's available to you at that level of progression. You could maybe target certain things that you want to upgrade. So the hideout system is very cool. Like I said, I appreciate having that physical space, something that I think could work in Marathon. I would like to see some sort of physical consistent space. And some of the stuff that they've done with Destiny, like the tower and some of those joint locations, obviously that's very different kind of uh, gameplay element that's more local tech kind of MMO realm of things. So even if it was like a shared communal space where you could get individual upgrades, that could be cool. But having a home base does feel really nice in these games, especially like I said in Forever Winter and here, which both these games are in beta, is another thing to think about. They're not finished being developed. Obviously Tarkov much farther along than the Forever Winter, so the base system is much more built out and more in depth. But I don't even honestly know that the hideout has been a part of it all along. I think that might even be something that's more recent within the past few years, potentially. I could be wrong about that. But it is nice to have a physical space, and I could definitely see a place for that in Marathon if that's, kind of the avenue they choose to approach it. Not something that I necessarily need, but it is a nice thing to have, and I do think it's that additional progression layer. So moving on, the next thing that kind of is that key progression movement, it feels like from my experience in Tarkov, would be the tasks. So you have these traders. I believe I have 5 or 6 maybe, and then it seems like there's 2 or 3 more additional that you can unlock. Potentially you can unlock a few more, but these traders you can build reputation with, faction style, kind of like how in Marathon we're seeing this Traxxas and Maida and Sekaguchi in the UESC. These people all represent either their own interests or different organizations or private military companies that you can align with, or just the scavengers who are trying to make the best out of living in this war-torn, fictional Russian city that you find yourself in of Tarkov. So each of the traders, not only can you buy stuff from them, but you can also get these quests from them, these objectives. So it's, go into this map and try to extract from this location. I need this number of this type of specific item. I need you to kill this number of scabs, or maybe this boss scav, which is an extra difficult enemy AI, which I haven't even been able to kill one of those guys yet. But these are the kind of goals that they'll give you. Go into these maps, get these types of items, extract from these locations, explore these types of areas. And then as you complete those tasks, your reputation with that trader will increase, and then you can buy more items or get better deals or access to more missions. Uh, you know, a very cool idea that I think is a very direct parallel over to what kind of they're setting up in Marathon in terms of the factions that they're obviously playing very heavily into within the ARG. I like the task system. For me personally, it feels like the skill barrier is a little high to be able to delve really deep into the tasks. Like I said, around 25 hours, maybe I've completed 4 or 5 of the quests, pretty hard. Now the other aspect is, I had initially when I first started playing, I played with Sato. Sato Talks Marathon on YouTube. If you guys want to see some more marathon content, check him out. But he kind of walked me through. He's played Tarkov for a long time, and he told me my first goal should be to get this loot box, this scav, this lucky scav loot box, which allows you to store basically a bunch of upgrade materials, and it doesn't take up your main storage space. So that was kind of my primary goal, and I was trying to make money and do extractions and kind of play the game from that style. So I could have potentially accomplished more of the tasks if that was really my primary goal, but I kind of dialed in on trying to get that done. It took me quite a while. Because of the unforgiving nature of Tarkov and how realistic some of the injuries are, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But the tasks are very cool. I like kind of the way that they're building out the world, and it's one of those things, kind of like what I've been talking about with the ARG and how it appears that Bungie is setting up their world in Marathon. That from the outside, Tarkov is this milsim shooter, load in, get loot, PvP, yada yada. But there actually is kind of a narrative bubbling under the surface of Tarkov that seems like pretty well thought out and thorough, and these characters each have pretty, specific personalities, and how this war is playing out between these private military entities and scavengers and other interested parties is something that, just based off my limited time with the task, they're kind of setting up. And as it seems to, or it seems that as you build your reputation with each individual, it seems like that might grant you access to more information within the narrative that kind of colors maybe your view of the events happening and the kind of goals that you're being given, even from the other traders that you are working with. So the task system seems cool, and like I said, you get rewarded with loot and rubles and different things that'll help you progress when you complete those, so that's good as well. And then kind of the third avenue of progression that you have is the loot. So you're going into the maps and you're trying to pick up valuable things. Those can be weapon mods, ammo, backpacks, vests, bandages, health healing items, things that will allow you to basically be the strongest, PMC, private military contractor guy you can be, so that you're not getting totally smoked every time you load in. And building out that is based off, luck and skill and map knowledge and all, completing the task and having a hideout so your character's at their best. That's kind of like where everything funnels into ultimately, I would say. Because in the end game, once you've completed these secondary objectives, like finishing the task and having a good hideout, that's what allows you to kind of kit up, with the highest level gear. So you have armor plating and the best helmets and the best night vision and best weapons, and that allows you to be very successful in loading into the maps, doing some PvP, getting some kills without being worried about losing everything because you couldn't afford the best armor, when you dropped in this time, or hunting down these scavs or trying to kill some of these boss AI. So those three elements combined, I think are a really good kind of like basis for other extraction games to look at and go, this is what is going to keep people coming back. This is the progression. You have a game in extraction shooters in general. You have a game where what you're selling people is the moment-to-moment experience. Ultimately, whether I'm loading in with a pistol and, a backpack, or a fully loaded out kit where I got, some crazy M4 with a bunch of attachments on it, and then I have this sick, huge backpack, and I'm going to this specific place. Either way, match to match, your goal is the same. You want to load into this map, you want to defend yourself, you want to pick up good shit, and you want to get out. So the experience that you're selling the player is consistent at the highest level of the game and the lowest level of the game. And honestly, the player's ability to enjoy that experience isn't truly hindered by what gear that they have. I feel like I'm having just as fun of a time loading in with limited resources and approaching it from that way, where I'm a broke rat, I'm trying to scuttle around the streets and not get killed and dink headshots where I can and steal people's loot. Just as much as when I've had, runs where I got very lucky and looted like a really high-end player and I had night vision and, like I said, all this awesome kit that I could load in. I've had, equivalent levels of fun. So the experience that you're selling them, the player in an extraction game, is this heart-pounding, moment-to-moment PvP, PvE experience with a very dynamic range of elements that you have to account for round to round. That is the fun thing. So really, when we're talking about longevity. One of my big takeaways from Tarkov is understanding that that progression system is built on the elements that exist outside of that moment to moment gameplay. And I find myself when I'm, thinking about, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of time to play a game later today, or, I'm going to have a few minutes around lunchtime. I'm going to jump in and do a scav run. Those are the things that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking, okay, so if I can do a run on factory and I might be able to loot this spot, I should probably scav there first. Let me try to get like 100, 150k rubles, and then, oh, I can use those to get this item, and then I think I'm going to, take the risk and run here, and that'll allow me to complete this task, or it'll allow me to do this upgrade, or, oh, I'll get this kit and that'll be good. So building on these kind of long-term progression systems in a way that doesn't really hinder the, round to round experience of the game is something that Tarkov, I think, excels at very, very well. That, I think, is the core of what is bringing people back to this over and over again, wipe after wipe. I mean, even just saying to somebody who isn't familiar with the game, if you explain to them, yeah, it's this super realistic Milsim game, you have to like heal each of your limbs individually, and there's different types of medicine that you need for each of your limbs to, affect these things. Your gun can get jammed and you have to clear jams in firefights. You can drop your backpack during firefights to make yourself more tactically viable. You can take these kind of gunner positions and attention is drawn to you. There's a lot of like very tactical, hardcore elements to this game that make it difficult, almost impenetrable for somebody who's very casually wanting to play a game. I couldn't imagine for example, bringing something like this over to console would be very difficult. Just the amount of menus, even inside of the matches, that you have to traverse to just accomplish successfully. So if you were to explain somebody that, right, and then you were to tell them that they could lose all of that very quickly from one shot to the head, and that, oh, hey, on top of that, like I'm saying, every few months they're going to clear out all the progression you've made, that's a very hard selling point to give to somebody, especially when, like I said, it's that easy for you to lose everything that you had on that run. It can be one round to the head from some random bot that you just completely missed, because it's a very realistic world, and sometimes people are laying down in bushes and it's impossible to see them, or you enter a room and there's 15 vantage points for you to get killed, but hey, you have to make a cross over this open clearing. So to accomplish those things and then be told, oh yeah, and on top of that, every few months it's all going to disappear, is something that I think sounds very alarming to someone who's maybe not familiar with Tarkov, or plays video games in a different kind of setting or realm, or isn't super into PvP. But the thing that really collapses the player base into continuing on that kind of trudge time after time is how satisfying these progression systems are. And I think it feels to me like that must be the thing that they're really developing wipe to wipe, and as the game kind of stays in this pseudo pre-release kind of state. I think that they're really great at creating a rewarding loop of gameplay that consistently draws people back in for the sake of the enjoyment of that gameplay. And I thought it was interesting as I kind of learned more about how the wipes work. I was looking into like how the community feels about it, and just reading posts, and obviously talking to people like Sato, who played quite a bit, and people in my live stream chat, Kareem and Muffin Spree, and people like this who showed up. Shout out to you guys if you're watching. Talking to them, it doesn't seem to me like the community is upset about the wipes. This isn't something that they're dreading. It almost seems like they look forward to, in that kind of initial phase where everyone's back on kind of even playing ground. Seems to be something that the community really enjoys. So understanding that is kind of like the biggest thing in terms of what I learned through playing Tarkov. Now let's start asking some of the big questions, shall we say. Do I recommend that you play Tarkov? I don't know. I don't know if I could recommend Tarkov to somebody, because I do feel like there is a certain type of person who will enjoy this. Do you really love hardcore, unforgiving PvP gameplay? Do you love kind of being set back down to zero relatively frequently? Are you somebody who's kind of interested in very milsim-centric kind of gameplay style, feel, and aesthetic? I mean, a lot of this is built around, like, have you ever been interested in firearms? Like, if you like firearms, you might enjoy this game just based off how kind of robust the firearm, modding situation is. Just that side of things might be enough for you to enjoy it entirely separate from whether or not you enjoy PvP games or extraction games in general. But can I say that I recommend, hey, if you're watching this channel and you're excited about the upcoming marathon game, should you play Tarkov? Eh, I think the thing that limits people from playing Tarkov is exactly what Marathon is trying to resolve. I think with Marathon, they're looking at kind of how rewarding the loop is of, oh my God, every time you load into a match, there's so, like I was talking about earlier, there's so many dynamic elements that you have to account for, and it's like heart-pounding, intense gameplay that kind of combines the best parts of the kind of battle royale genre, and or the battleground, whatever you want to call the 100 players, one makes it out genre, with some more kind of compelling and dynamic loot type stuff where you're not just trying to kill everybody, but maybe you want to team up with people. Like, it's combining those elements to make this really rewarding, heart-pounding, intense, fun PvP experience. But everything else that Tarkov is doing is very niche. It is very niche. It reminds me a lot, and I've said this on stream, of old school when I played like Arma 2, Arma 3 kind of stuff, where, okay, this is like the most intense military simulator. There's like a whole flight simulator inside of Arma that feels pretty robust and realistic to somebody who's not super familiar with that stuff. And that stuff is very extreme. I feel like that is its own genre. And so I wouldn't say if you're excited about Marathon, you need to jump into Tarkov. But what I would say is that if you're excited about extraction games and you appreciate kind of that dynamic, intense combat and PvP feel that come with extraction games, this game does it really, really well. And if you're willing to put up with a very realistic aesthetic and the milsim aspects of it, then I would say check it out for sure. It's probably the best possible thing available to you. I myself have really enjoyed it. I'm going to continue playing it quite a bit, especially, now that we kind of have that job listing from Bungie talking about what they were looking for in they're hiring like a QA guy or something. They were looking for somebody who had time in Tarkov and Rainbow Six Siege, and I think there was maybe a few other games that they're kind of open to. But for that reason, I want to continue to play this, and I enjoy it personally, but, up my skill and understanding, because it does seem like, one of the things that Bungie is trying to replicate with how they're putting Marathon together, but I don't know that, like, hey, oh, you like Destiny, you like Halo shooters, or Bungie shooters, you like stuff like that. I couldn't point at this and go, you're going to have a great time with it. I've really enjoyed it. The scav system is also very cool, which is another thing that I think Bungie might want to bring into Marathon. Is so in Tarkov you have two options when you're gonna play a match. You can either play as your PMC, your primary character, where if you load in, it's all your stuff that you brought from your stash, and if you die, it's gone. You can't do anything with it at that point. Or you can load in as a scavenger, which is kind of this randomly generated character. Every time you load in as them, they're different. They have randomized loot on them, randomized gear, randomized weapons, and then you get to load into a match and run around and just try to get loot so you can bring it out with you and hopefully sell it and make some money for your primary character. Also, the enemy characters, the AI characters in the match, are also known as scavs. And so when you're playing as a scav, unless you've been really mean like me and accidentally killed a bunch of the scavs while playing as a scav, normally the scavs will not shoot back at you. So you can run in as a scav and not have to worry about really other player scavs even normally won't engage with you, but the enemy AI don't mess with you. So you really only have to worry about a smaller portion of the map, or the PMC, the real players in the match as well, gunning you down, which kind of makes it a more relaxed experience. It allows you to kind of get a better look at some of the maps that maybe you haven't spent any time on because you don't want to lose all your gear loading into one of them, while also allowing you to get around in maybe as a warm-up before you jump into your PMC. Another cool thing that they do with the scav system is that it's limited. So you only get a scav every 30 minutes. So after 30 minutes, like 30 minutes from when you end a match as a scav, you'll have a new scav unlocked that you can load into, but you can't just scav all the time over and over again for infinite money while risking nothing. So it forces you to engage with kind of the main component of the game, which is loading in as one of the PMC characters, while also giving you an avenue to kind of approach it from a more relaxed kind of perspective, hopefully. So I've really enjoyed Tarkov. You know, there's a lot more that I could dive into here. I think I'm probably going to save some of my deeper analysis of, you know, specifically what I thought about certain mechanics within Tarkov for the next While We Wait for Marathon video, which hopefully is going to be my kind of overall. Now that I think I've played all of the premier extraction shooters on the market, or, you know, from what's currently available and being played, I think I'm going to, over the next few weeks, put together a little bit more in-depth video where I have some, you know, kind of graphics to kind of depict what I'm saying, and ultimately come to the conclusion of like, these are the elements I think make extraction games very good. This is what I would like to see in Marathon. These are the kind of things that I've gathered knowledge-wise through my quest to become the most mediocre extraction player, which you know, we'll make that my goal is, I guess, to become the best extraction player, but we'll be realistic at this point. Say my goal is to be mediocre, to be average, and hopefully I can achieve that. So I think I'll save some of that very specific gameplay stuff that I thought for that video, which should be coming out within the next few weeks. And like I said, that'll gather my kind of conclusive extraction thoughts. And until then, I'm probably going to be jumping in quite a bit more. I'll probably primarily play Tarkov on stream, unless we're doing like community events or maybe some Destiny here and there. I'll probably do Tarkov and Hunt. Keep it generally to extraction games over the next few weeks. Like if you guys watched my video earlier, I'm thinking February might be a good time for us runners here waiting for Marathon. So hopefully that ends up panning out for us and kind of lead right into that. But either way, should be good. So I'll save some of that stuff for that video. And like I said in the beginning of this video, if you guys have a moment and are excited for Marathon, please consider supporting me in making my video, you know, about what people really want for Marathon, and consider following the link for that Google form, which I have in the description and pinned comment below, and filling that out so I can hear your thoughts. And also there's a section at the bottom of that form where if you want to include your username or nickname or something to appear in the credits of that video, please do so I can credit you for assisting me. But yeah, guys, Tarkov, very fun. I'm addicted to it. I'm going to keep playing. I really love a lot of the elements of it. There's a lot that I would like to see come over to Marathon, especially in the way that it's kind of supported by its developers, kind of some of the transparency they have in there, the kind of surveys that they offer in-game even, and the progression systems that are available. But like I said, the milsim stuff, the dying, you know, one shot that you never even saw, not for everybody, and I don't think ever will be. Whereas a Marathon style game that maybe has slightly different time to kill pacing on it, and maybe different, more kind of varied visual aspects that might be appealing to a broader range of people, I think does kind of have that opportunity. And like I said, I'll speak more on that later. All right. Thank you for listening to me yap again. I know this video is quite a doozy of me rambling about it, but I want to get my thoughts out there as much as I can in the build up to Marathon. All right. Thank you, everybody. Let me know what you think of Tarkov down below. If you have any suggestions as to how I can stop being such a terrible player, leave that in the comments as well. And I love you. All right. Bye.